Deconversion Therapy. I'm your host, Karen. This is my assistant,
Bonnie Bedelia.
No, this is...
how it's going to be?
Yeah, that's how it's going to be. It's Karen, and it's Bonnie.
That's how it is today, because Karen knows everything today, and I have to apologize for not knowing at all what we're talking about.
And that is every day in conversation. Welcome to the podcast. And we're on all the social media things, and you can sponsor us and join our monthly live Zoom parties. Let's see, we have the new merch. Go check out the new merch. Everyone loves it. So how's it been going?
I have some things that I'm really passionate about lately.
That's good.
That I wanted to share.
So today we're going to... Go ahead. Open your heart.
One are these big giant cubes for ice that you make in a silicone tray. And they're like 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches. And they chill your drink like nothing else. They're like really for... cocktails, but I don't drink cocktails, so my water has never been better. Isn't that exciting?
I love a good ice cube.
Right?
So if my husband orders a Manhattan, like there'll be like, an old fashioned. One of them comes with a giant square ice cube.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get that because he's like, you don't get as much drink.
Oh.
But once in a while, he'll get the big ice cube, and I love to look at it. It's very nice.
It chills your drink just differently. So that's very exciting.
Interesting. Well, we all have
that's all I'm
hopes and dreams.
That's all I got. A big ice cube. I got the ones that make circle or, balls as well. They are not easy. To make.
No.
Because you've got the bottom and the top, and they can't quite squish together like you want them to, so they don't look perfect.
Wait, don't you just fill out the hole in the top? You close it and you fill the water through the little hole.
Yeah, but once you close it, it has to stay close and tight, and it doesn't. Maybe I don't know how to use them. They didn't come with instructions.
While it's freezing, you always want to open and check on it? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what happens. That was it also, and I made chimichurri this week.
I don't know what that is. Is it spicy?
Oh, it's a little spicy, but I didn't make it that spicy, and I made mine with cilantro and olive oil and garlic and lime. So it's just a little green sauce topper for flank steak or skirt steak.
Nice. Do you remember, do they still sell the meat that was like really thin? Steakums.
Ew, gross. Yeah, I'm sure they still sell it because there's still disgustingness.
Great. That's when, you could suddenly, as we age ourselves, bring the world of food into your home. And everyone was like, have you heard of a chili cheesesteak? And people would be like, no. And then all of a sudden, Steakums then came out, and we'd all put Velveeta on it.
Oh, because that's what they were. They were like Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwiches.
Yeah.
And they were spelled S-T-E-A-K for steak, and then UMS.
Yeah.
U-M-M-S.
I know. I'm shocked that I'm alive from what I ate growing up.
Oh, okay.
Just Steakums and Pop-Tarts and all
Tang.
that crap. Some Tang, lots of preservatives. That's why we're known as the strong generation.
We are the generation who were completely prepared for the pandemic. We're like, what? Being left alone and entertaining ourselves? Yeah.
Right. I don't have to bite my lip that I don't want to go out. I just don't go out. That's great. It works.
And, oh my gosh, somebody commented today on an article, and I loved it, about how I think Jamie Dimon, the head of, I don't know if he's Chase Manhattan Bank or something, he was like, oh, people don't want to commute to work, so what? And, talking about the workforce coming back into the office. And somebody said, yeah, because then you can't get them trapped in an office and perform the manipulative gaslighting on them to stay a part of your culture. And I'm like, oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't need to comment. Thank you.
See, and I would be like all in for the gaslighting. I'm like, ooh, yeah.
What?
That's all I wanted to do. And that's the only thing I never got to do in my
Gaslight people?
Is like I wanted to go to an office. I wanted to dress up. I wanted to go to an office. I wanted to put my fingers on a computer and go doodly-doo-doo-doo. Have no idea what that would be about. But I was like, yeah. No, I did have a job at an office. I lied. But I did not have, everyone was on drugs at that one. I wanted like a professional one.
Well, it's shitty.
Yeah. That's what they
Let me
say.
just tell you.
But are you
Although,
gaslighting me so I don't get a job at an office?
No, and I will tell you, okay, so it was a corporate job I had. We had 3 floors of people. We were one big department in New York, and there was this guy who did our IT. He was like in a department of maybe 3 or 4 people. Guess what? One day he didn't come to work, and he passed away. So you know how they told us? With an email. An email. They couldn't come around and tell us that someone we saw every day had died, and he was like maybe 35.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is sad.
And then I went into my boss's office with another colleague, and we both showed up in the doorway, and we said, oh my gosh, did you see that email that just came through? You know what his reply was? Yeah, I knew about it yesterday. Oh, okay. Okay, this is corporate world. By COG, although we had a really nice cafeteria.
That's all that matters. That's it.
Okay, guys, so there's a new podcast, and I've already gobbled up all 9 episodes. It's called The Just Enough Family, and it's about this really super crazy wealthy family in New York society. And,
so it's like it's real.
It's real.
Oh.
And it's funny, and the way that they talk about super serious things is with like a nice degree of levity, and it's really nice too how they realized that when they were younger and they saw things one way, they just casually say, oh, with 20 years of insight, I can see that this might not have been the right way to view this. It's just really cool to see people who have that much money kind of going over how messed up everything was in their lives. And it's always nice to hear that people with the most money in the world aren't necessarily happier.
Yes,
so
we
that's
love
kind of
them
fun.
to be miserable. We crave it. And we will do our best to make them miserable if we can. Yeah, I'm still into Something Was Wrong. I love that podcast.
Oh, that's crazy.
I know.
Those are some shit going down stories.
I know.
Yeah.
I loved sort of, hearing a bit of messed up stuff. So I've been listening to that. Who is Mordecai? I listened to that mostly. So it's generally the same thing where like someone's dating a guy named Mordecai. And guess what? They might not be the only one dating him. It might not be his name. He might not have a home. There's a lot that goes into it. But
just wait if you listen to the Just Enough family. You get your share of that too.
And the interesting thing is like all the people that this guy was going after, all professional, very smart women. Like it shows that it has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's all, yeah.
It's all how much you need the ween.
Oh, or that.
Yeah,
Yes.
feel free to take that right out.
Because some of them never. Anyway. But
Okay, there's another TV show.
What?
The Shrink Next Door. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
With Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd.
I haven't watched it, but I think that's off a podcast that I listened to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. I will.
But
look
it
at
has
that.
Paul Rudd.
Oh, love that Paul Rudd.
Well, I like it when anybody who's a comedian gets named sexiest man and just knowing that their friends are shitting all over them.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
That's
and
what
I said
we
that
did,
to you before.
Sexiest podcasters, and next thing you know, Joe Rogan
thing you
was
know.
calling us and laughing, and Dax Shepard, and we're like, stop.
So years ago, Joe Rogan was in a limousine with my roommate on the way to the Emmys, and he showed everybody that he could turn himself upside down and touch his own penis with his mouth. And so I always thought, well, that's an interesting trick. And then recently, he announced that on his podcast.
I read about that.
Right. So I was like, I am very surprised this is new news. And I am also impressed that this many years later, he's still able to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the ivermectin has kept him young and
lubricated.
flexible. That's just... And so you're going to the Emmys, and you're like...
Not me.
What?
My roommate, not me.
I know.
But she came home with, oh, this is what happened on my lovely, glamorous night out.
I meant you as in him.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's going to the Emmys, and he's like, what is going to be a fun precursor to the Emmys?
Yeah.
I'm going to wrinkle my outfit and get upside down to entertain. God, I really
My
dislike
outfit.
him a lot. So much that I do.
You know who was originally supposed to have the role that he had in news radio?
No.
Yeah, that's right. Ray Romano. That's it, folks. Good night.
Yeah.
Here's your shitty tidbits of
There's the
information.
Well, I think I had seen that, of course, like on TikTok or something like that. And they're like, he just announced that he can, put his own dick in his own mouth or whatever.
Announced. Press release.
Yep. And I'm just said, isn't that what he does every week? Get at his show. And then, yeah. But it's the holiday season. And I have been watching all these fun little TikToks of these families getting together. And already, some are so cute and everything's all sweet. But some are like 5 minutes before the turkey was even ready. And it's just a family brawl. It is yelling. It is people walking out. It is, I'm like, oh, that's so stressful. Like so we are thinking of all of you as you enter all these holidays and you just want to put your own dick in your mouth, but you're next to your grandmother. Man.
I don't think that would prohibit Joe Rogan from sharing that piece of information. Oh, but tell people what we think is going on. We think that a lot of people are ordering our merch to wear at holiday gatherings with their uber religious families.
That's what they're saying. I'm like, you're very brave. And you're like, I want to have a fight. I am going in because they have gaslit me so long. Wait till they see this shirt that talks about, remember when remember when God killed babies? So
yes.
You guys have fun, report back, etc. That segues right into this week's amazing story coming out of one of your favorite places to vacation.
Oh, no.
Siberia, Russia.
Okay.
We've already done something out of Siberia. Now I'm realizing there's a lot of weird religious stuff going on in Russia. we already did the guy in Russia who I think is, I don't know if he's still in jail. Remember the one that's like, I'm Jesus and I also sleep with young women. Anyway, we did that one a while ago.
Why is that always like an offshoot of cults or like leaders of groups that have a religious bent? Like, oh, and I also must sleep with young women.
That's right. There's so few celibacy ones these days. Anyway, all right. So this one is about, like, I've had a few obsessions in my life, and oddly, they're both Russian. One was about the Tsar, Nicholas, and Alexandria and all that. And this sort of coincides with it. This is Agafia Lykov. And
was that the name that you just said?
Yes, it is a woman.
Okay. Agafia?
Agafia.
Okay.
So Agafia Lykov. And she's fascinating, and it's so weird. So I'll start with this, where there's a family that had been in Siberia and no one knew for 40 years, and they never met another human being for 40 years. And that, to me, fascinates the shit out of me. So
it's a family, and they were their own little nuclear family?
That was it. Yes, I'll tell you how they got there and everything. But
okay.
I also just watched the 2020 thing of the Turpin family, which you've got to watch. Like, I remember when this happened, when the police, I can't remember what state it is, but a girl had escaped her house, and she's like, hey, we're being abused, bottom line. They go in, there's all these really skinny kids, there's a lot of bad stuff, and the parents were very Christian, although the dad's haircut was like a long bowl. Yep, that's him.
That's right.
So they finally did an interview and spoke out, and it mainly was two of the daughters who talked. Mm-hmm. Their speech patterns are so weird. And you realize
they weren't around people.
Yeah. Oh. So it's like almost like it's a different accent. And it showed the young woman who jumped out of the window, and she ran and she called the cops and all this stuff. But they were like, do you have an injury? And she's like, what's injury? And, hurt. No, I have not hurt myself. So she was really, so many words were just missing from her vocabulary. So I'm fascinated with all that shit. So Agafia...
just tangent. So Agafia, that was funny.
Yeah, that's how my mind works. I don't know if I'm like in awe of her, feel sorry for, who knows, but let's get into it. She is the member of a family that were old believers. So old believers in Russia were like this super orthodox sect of Christianity, but the kind that, read from 400-year-old Bibles and all this stuff. They really do.
Does that mean the text was different? Or the pages were just old? And I'm not being funny.
I think the text was a little bit different.
Okay.
And they do all these like liturgical and ritual practices. So like Russian Orthodox, pretty much. And they even had a split in the church. It was very difficult because some believed like when you cross yourselves, you use 2 fingers, while the other thought 3. Like they were splitting hairs over what is really unchristian and what isn't. And hers was the ultra-conservative, super-duper ultra-conservative. But when this church split, so this is not ha-ha funny, but when
the
they
3
split,
fingers versus 2 fingers is pretty funny.
Yes. when they split, there were some that were so upset over the split or having to go along with things that they didn't feel were Christian, which could be anything, I don't know, celebrating Christmas or whatever, that like 10,000 of them killed themselves.
Themselves?
Themselves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. And they did it in like really gruesome ways too. They didn't even do it, here's some pills, I'm going to relax, good night. It was horrific ways that they did it, 10,000 just because they were so, like worried about that they would rather not live, quote, sinful lives.
Right.
What? You just got to be a little flexible. A little bit.
Wow, that's really rigid.
It's a bit rigid.
I mean, we're so accustomed these days to having religious leaders kill people. That's an awful thing to say, too. But like the Kool-Aid and, the people in the capes with the tennis shoes.
I know. And this is like...
But to do it to yourself.
Some bad shit. So these people are obviously... They just believe so much that if we don't follow this very rigid, ancient way of believing that's from like the 1600s, and then we're not really Christians.
These are people who were not interested in finding a solution.
They were not. The idea of progress did not enter into it. In fact, I'll get into that in a little bit. But I put a picture in our document that shows like a modern priest or whatever of this cult or sect. No. And I said that they're distinguished by their happy-go-lucky smiles. No, it's absolutely just miserable-looking, gruff, sort of Santa-looking things, but with like a lot of black cloth.
He looks like someone filming in New Zealand, the Hobbit movies.
That's what I was going to say. So think of someone playing in the Hobbit movie and a paparazzi just caught them doing something bad and they're upset.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a word for who he looks like that, or the name of a character that, I don't know, like Mordor or something.
Or Grumpy.
Or Grumpy.
Yeah.
He's not an elf.
So these old believers, like there are no good numbers of how many there are today because not a lot of them get and talk to census takers or whatever. They live in towns and all that, but they're not raising their hands saying, here we are, because their whole idea is we need to keep our area, our little microcosm clean and away from all those gross people. But there could be less than 1 million. There could be 2 million, but they think there's probably
that many?
less. I know. And when they say like, oh, there's 1 to 2 million, I'm like, that's a big range when you say 1 to 2 million. But some of the things I see, they're like less than 1 million.
I mean, are they on the DL?
No, I mean, they're not anything like that. They're not doing any Waco stuff. They would think like the Amish. Like, we are not joining in your heathen.
We'll be over here doing our thing. Just leave us alone.
Where we're knitting our black cloth.
Okay.
So that's what they would do. But in the early days, when it was in Russia, there was like persecution that came around, especially in the late 1800s and in the 1900s, and then under Stalin, where they were, being definitely persecuted. And so people got afraid, and that's when Agafia's papa carp. Yeah, you heard that right.
No.
Carp. He took his family, he took his wife, and maybe a couple of kids. I don't know how many were born then, and fled into, the middle of Siberia because they really felt that they were going to be killed if they were found. And so that was in 1936.
Wow.
And supposedly, it was so isolated where they went that if you go there now, you could get there on a canoe, but it'd take 7 days.
A canoe?
Well, some kind of boat apparatus.
Okay.
But,
all right.
So people have ended up going there now, but I'll tell you all about that.
I'm going to write it down so I can Google Earth it later.
How they have had to, however they got there and dragged all their stuff, or they just ran, I do not know. But
dragged all their stuff.
They've got
Mom,
the
did you get my
coffee
charger?
They've got the, yeah. But 1936, that's crazy. And they were there for 40 years without meeting anyone. And Agafia was born there. So there's not a single person. They don't meet a single person. It's insane.
Just your family.
It's just your family. They
gaslighting you as much as they want. Okay.
But they didn't even know what an airplane was till one flew over and scared the shit out of them.
Can you imagine that horror? Because an airplane, it clearly isn't flapping its wings.
And you're hearing the noise.
And the noise is approaching.
That noise.
Like a storm.
They didn't know the war happened.
Well, and for that, maybe they're probably
very happy.
lucky.
Very happy. And then I think during the Cold War, there would be missile launches over Siberia. Because remember, they were practicing to kill us. But then Sting sang, "Don't Russians love their children too?" And then they stopped doing that. But the missiles, some of the trash from it or whatever, would fall maybe a mile or two from where the Lykovs were. And they didn't know what the hell that was either. And so in film, they show these, mangled pieces of wreckage. And she gets a stick and she hits it and she's like, all it's good for is scaring away bears. And she's like, clank, clank, hits it.
All it's good for. She doesn't know the many uses. Didn't come with the instructions.
So most of the people that are in this Old Believers church, they're in Russia, Latvia, Romania, all the ones that sound like that, Armenia, blah, 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 blah. But then there are some, and guess where one of the churches is?
Italy?
No, I was waiting for you to say, in my backyard, and then I'd say yes, but I don't really know.
Not Florida. Not Florida.
There's some in Alaska, and then there is a community in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know hilarious. How that works.
I think it's so interesting that the human mind sometimes will just go, oh, that theology? That makes sense with me. Yeah.
I don't.
Let's latch on to that one.
That one seems good. And I guess it's the whole fear thing. And then, of course, they did have to be scared when Stalin sort of came into power and they were like, well, this isn't good. He's going to do this and that. And he's not going to let us, practice our boring old book stuff. So we got to flee. But however they fled, they did bring pieces, not pieces of metal, but old-timey pictures of old saints that's banged into silver pieces, quote art. So they had a few of those pictures all around. So it's sort of like if you really went, what is
Did
it
they
called?
use those things to make their house?
Oh, no. That was just like on an altar. You'd see like a picture made into a silver thing.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of.
Did they make like a cabin from trees?
They made a condo. The windows overlooked. No, they made this house, and that's the thing, that inside there was an altar-ish thing, and it would have the little medallions or whatever you want to call it of maybe they're saints or who knows what. And then they'd have the real old book there. And then later, since there were 2 boys and 2 girls, they put the boys' cabin like half a mile away down by the water. So they even kept them separate, which is fine. I mean, especially if they had read Flowers in the Attic. They knew. They'd been warned.
I haven't read that, but I'm just imagining the references.
Yeah.
And that I shouldn't be laughing.
No. But
okay, so a man and his wife go out into the middle of nowhere, and the guy has to convince this woman, with all my might, I will build you from my hands a house. With the help of our young children.
Yeah. Well, she was having
God.
the young children while she was lifting the logs.
Oh my
Pick
gosh.
a log, a baby comes out. They did everything. Who knows how many years it took them to do it or what, but it was getting really bad in the 60s-ish. Agafia was born in 1944, so they'd been there over 10 years. And then food got really scarce. And in 1961, the mother starved to death because she didn't want to eat the food that could go to her kids. So, I mean, this is like desperate shit. This is...
Yeah.
I have watched many Naked and Afraids plus survivalist shows. They would not have handled it. They would have gotten on the radio or Alone. If you watch Alone, they have a little necklace where they can use to contact the outside.
Yeah, but these are coddled, like 20th, 21st century people.
Exactly. So they're doing all that. And
poor Agafia, she couldn't jump out the window and go track someone down and go, "Excuse me."
Yoo-hoo. Yeah, there was nothing.
God.
And it seemed like all the family were fine and happy together. I mean, again, these old believers did not cherish the word happy, but they existed and loved each other. That's for sure. So in 1978, there were geologists who were going all over Russia and flying in helicopters and all this, and they spotted like cut wood and all these things that they knew were weird. And they flew by it again. They didn't see people, but they saw like a big vegetable garden, and they're like, what the hell? So they landed wherever they were going to land, and they hiked the 6 miles or so, because it's so reclusive, to this area. And out comes a man, and he just sort of stares at them, and they're like, you know, everything's good. And the man says, you might as well come in. So they go in the house.
I like how you're so casual about it. If you're here.
That's exactly what he did.
Might as well come in.
That's exactly what he did. Carp. He was like, you know, oh, well. So they went in, and by that time, only the 2 daughters were alive because there were things happening, I think.
And
maybe
carp.
the boys, actually. Yeah. Maybe there was a boy and they were down at the boys' cabin. But these geologists, which were 3 men and 1 woman, go inside the house that had never seen anybody. And the 2 sisters, Agafia and her sister, fall on their knees crying, saying, it's because of our sins that you're here.
Oh my gosh.
They were so warped that they had no idea why people would be coming to see them or had found them. They didn't know that, like I said, there was a war or many wars. They didn't know anything that had happened out in the real world.
Oh my gosh. Can you, and I would think that it could easily go the other way. Oh my gosh, another human, you must have been sent by God. But no.
Yeah.
They had been taught world bad.
Oh, I'm sure they were especially at the beginning, we have to pray that no one finds us because we're going to be killed or whatever, so they were in total shock. And then it's said that the people left, but they went and built a fire nearby. And then after a while, the man and the daughters came out and they were better. So the father had chilled them out and all that. But they tried to give them hey, we have some tea, we have some milk. And they're like, we cannot do that. We cannot do that. So there was just a lot of rules that they could not do. And
they're already not doing so much.
There's so much.
Another set of rules. No TV. What? Oh,
what
God.
is a TV?
Oh, my gosh.
The thing they said about Agafia is that she did have spunk. She's like, hey, guess what? I can read. And she went in and she got that ancient book, which was the only thing they could have fun with. Opened it up and was like, thou shalt not smile, thou shalt, whatever. And then the other girl's like, hey, I can read too. So they said they were sort of childlike, but that they spoke in a weird cadence again.
Yeah.
Next, because they had no immunity to anything, of course, that visit gave them the flu or this and that. And it was later that, or not too long after that, that the father died. He died of some, sickness that he probably got from the outside visitors. And everything about the deaths were so super sad because Agafia's there by herself in the end. And she's burying her family and their last words were always something really sweet and all that.
Okay, so stop there for a second. What was their end plan? Okay, all of us are out here. As we die off, one of you is going to be left to just deal with this. Oh, but if it's based on before, they're probably just going to commit suicide.
Well, that's it. I was thinking that too. How would they be oh, we need to carry on the religion by you all marrying? Well, that's not going to happen. Or we're one day going to go back into society and find our own set of believers because we can't be the only ones. I mean, there had to be something, but you're right. Maybe it's the whole, no, we all are excited to die horribly. I don't know. I don't know. But I mean,
it's all for God.
Exactly.
Wow.
Just think of, okay, you in Siberia in a cabin, go.
Yeah.
But how do you survive one day? Think of all the things you would have to do physically.
Yeah, well, get a coat.
I'm going to get a coat. Yeah.
I'd probably have one brought with me. I'd probably know how to knit things.
But just getting your water, you'd have to go chop wood. Yeah, I mean,
and if my mom has died
labor.
Because she went without food so that I could survive, that's not some guilt. Ew. Oh.
And who knows if they have the same understanding of guilt? I don't know. Later, the father died, and then a brother died, and then Her sister died, so there she is. She's alone. She's doing everything. Now, luckily, those geologists, when they went back with the news, like these people became stars, but it wasn't like they became stars and then people went and visited them because it was just too hard to do. Yeah. But the captain of the Winterlands or whatever you would call it there, like a park ranger, he then knew that they were there. So they did get supplies every so often of stuff, which she was like thrilled about because they had no shoes. It's snowing. They had everything was broken down, their saws, all that. So they would bring her a goat. They would bring some chickens. They would bring this and that. And
you know what they needed to bring her? A new father. That guy did not do a good job for his family.
He thought he was doing the best for his family.
I don't care.
Where are the newspapers? He did not know there was a war and it was over. He did not know this. But I agree. I mean,
wow.
Well, luckily, someone does come. So one of the geologists by the name of Yerigi Sadov, whatever.
Okay.
He was like, I don't want to be in town either. I am going to move out with you.
No.
What is wrong with that? It's very nice. So he moves in 1997. He goes ahead and they build a little cabin for him down from her so that he can be there, help out. But you see, Yerigi or Yeri, he had a peg leg. So
Karen.
He did. And the funny thing is, he was like, it's from the war. And then later it was like he had a disease, like, who knows?
What war?
Yeah. But so he was in this cabin and he was supposed to be helping. He did nothing. She then had to do all her shit and then take care of him. She had to bring him food. She had to bring him water. So she has to go like a far way away and carry on snowshoes fucking water. And then now she has to bring it to him. She has to give him,
Okay, so rewind your DVR of life. When you said to me, oh, what's wrong with that? That's what's wrong with that.
Know.
And I could see it coming.
How did you know?
Because, guys.
Well, then there was like I'm not sure what year it was, but Vice or some documentary people went out to go see her, and it took a long time for them to get out there, and they've made a film. So you can watch these films on YouTube or whatever. And they, they land there, they bring her a goat and a chicken and this and that. And the same with the Yeri guy, and they shake his hand. And then later they're interviewing her, and they're like, I love that she was like, oh, he's a good for nothing. Nobody wants him. People in town didn't want him. He was running from something anyway. Like, she's just shitting on him, which I love. That's awesome. She was brought up to, I guess, be all good and pure, but she's like, he's a fucking loser. And they're like, oh, but isn't it good that he's here? And she's like, no. And then they say something. I'm trying to think.
Did he have romantic intentions toward her?
Well, because
she was
asked that,
most likely a virgin?
Said, no. She said one time, twice he went crazy, and I had to fight him off, but the sin happened. And I'm like, that fucking shit. So here we have, you can be living in Siberia, but if you're a woman, it doesn't matter you barely have any teeth. It doesn't matter what you look like. You will still have a man go out there to take advantage of you and then still have you cook and clean for them.
Oh my gosh.
I
Did she not
know.
have teeth?
They were like ground down.
Oh,
They were very
gosh.
short. She was short on teeth, short teeth.
Oh.
But, he still lived out there. The sort of good thing was that he had a ham radio, which she would not partake in because that is sinful, because she said more than once, we're of the old believers, and then came the evil science, and science stole souls and all that stuff. But he finally croaked in 2015, so she got to get on the ham radio and be like, pick up. But, he still stayed out there even after she'd made that documentary, which I hate to say, if I had been aware of that, I would have been like, I'm sorry, we will be getting you off the premises.
Right.
I don't know.
So they made the documentary and she still lived there.
Oh, yeah. She still lives there now.
Really?
Yes.
By herself?
I will get into that. Bonnie.
Oh, my God.
Bonnie. This
It's
is
as though you
series.
planted me to ask these dumbass questions. Okay.
So luckily he dies. Now she had been to like the closest city since she'd been discovered. She'd been there like 5 times, because once it was revealed that, hey, there's this family living out there. And then it was like, hey, it's just a woman left.
Yeah.
She got word that her mother's sisters lived in the city, and they wanted her to come visit. She
that's
almost
nice.
died each time.
Because of the immunity issue?
Yeah. So she also got sick by city water. So
Wow.
Yeah. So, then I think there was something a few years ago where they had to, maybe she broke her leg. Anyway, they like airlifted her to a hospital and then took care of her there and all that. And then she wanted to go back. She's like, I do not get along with people. I don't want to be around them. I mean, I think she's COVID free, so it's not a bad situation.
Wow.
But
oh my gosh, does she know about COVID? Oh my gosh.
I don't know. But she writes letters to like some of the old believers, and they write her and all that. But she's still there now because her old house was just ancient. There's some Russian billionaire who in the last 1 year, decided he will fund for her to have a house built. It's, a proper house, all nice and clean. But right next to the house she's at, she didn't want to leave. And so they built, it was fine. I mean, yes, it was nicer than what she had, but then it wasn't. It was like a prefab, not well-made house.
Oh, no.
Very small. And people were all upset. They're like, what the hell is going on? And supposedly, because the land she lives on is public land or belongs to the state, you can't cut trees. So, of course, her family did in the old days. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
And it's good to build. When I build houses, I do it from the whole log.
Right.
It makes the insulation better. And when I sing, the reverberations are pleasant, dulcet tones. But since they couldn't do that, they had to ship in, which wasn't really ship in. It was, strapping a bunch of things on boats and all that. Like 2x4s. So she just had this house that looked like a little Alpine cottage. Very nice. But then people were like, what kind of, fuckery is this? That's not going to protect her in the winter. And then other people were like, why did you give her that kind of stove? That isn't going to keep her warm. Everyone was suddenly upset that that she's not being, if you're going to build her a house, do it right.
Aww.
Then,
And that's the thing. Were they doing it wrong, or was everybody just all of a sudden chiming in?
I think all of that, yeah.
Okay.
I think they were sort of, maybe it was like, hey, I'm going to get attention because they can't figure out why the billionaire did it. Although I do think people can just be nice. But everyone's like, you know, who knows why he did it. But I'm sure there's the idea of she'll be happy with anything because she's been living in a shack. So they built her the cute little thing and all that. But because she's gained attention and people do come out there now more often, like bloggers or people who want to, they bring her stuff, but they also do a film about her or write about her or whatever.
I bet some of them feel like God's called them to do that.
Maybe. Yeah, I wonder.
Sorry, made myself cough.
I think it's money has caused them to do it because they all get sort of attention and fame. And so in March of this year, her old house burned.
Oh, no.
And they, And they were, I guess.
Because that could have happened at any time.
But that's exactly the point. They're like, why now? It supposedly started in the fireplace, but how did she exist since 1944 without ever burning her house? And there were staying in a cabin in, I don't know if you call it the property or what, but, you know, not that close by, but part of her area were some bloggers. And there was one blogger who happened to just be there right at the nick of time, help save everything. And a lot of people think he might have started it because he could blog about it. And then every news place would run his linked blog.
Yeah.
So,
you know, that was also the plot of the movie with Brooke Shields and I think Timothy Hutton, Endless Love. He set fire to the house and rescued her to be a hero. Yeah, and you know who gave him the idea? The character in the movie played by Tom Cruise.
Really? I never watched it. But I like this song because I could sing it. That was good.
The male part.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
That's...
So he endless loved her house, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
And, you know, she'd asked for help plenty of times where she's like, you know, I need someone out here. I just can't do it anymore. I'm 1,000,000 years old.
On the ham radio.
Right. And then when the Ding Dong came out, I think she was like, never mind, I can do this myself. But now she doesn't really want anyone living there long term. So I guess people just come out every once in a while. And then the king of the park or the ranger, he arranges and checks on her. He brings her, you know, medicines and all that. But because now she has someone who checks on her. But she has been a hermit. They've been religious hermits this whole time. And that's so weird. That's
amazing. And I have to watch the videos now.
Yeah, they're all on YouTube.
Thanks.
Vice does a good one. It's fascinating because I'm like, some of me is like, ignorant, you know, religious people, look what you've done. But then at the same time, I'm like, she's amazing.
Yeah, and living isolated like that, you have hurt no one. You have not witnessed to a single person.
True.
And, you know, tried to get them to see your way of thinking.
Yeah. I don't even know if witnessing is part of their thing because that might mean some kind of joy or happiness. I think they're really into.
Right. But she also didn't get married to create more humans to increase the numbers of the religion. So that's nice.
Yeah.
They just pretty much went out in the woods and did their thing.
I know, but the labor that, it's unbelievable because that terrain is crazy. And it's so cold. You wouldn't even get to lay out in a bikini. There's nothing.
Not even like they know about that.
I know.
When they went into hiding, bathing suits were like down to the ankles. So,
and the whole idea that, if if we put anyone now in that circumstance, they would die of a paper cut. Like,
right.
How these people didn't. Obviously, they did all die, so I am lying. But I think most of it was all from being introduced to people in one way or another. They got different things, but shit, it's just like so daunting. And there's no hobbies.
We don't know that.
She's not like, you know what I want to do? I want to take up knitting, or I'd like to paint, or listen to music. Nothing.
I'd really like a new book of Sudokus.
Right.
They made their own fun. Don't you worry.
They did not. There was no fun. Oh, I forgot to tell you some exciting parts of their religion. Okay, obviously they don't drink, they don't smoke, they have to dress modestly, and they have to say a different number of hallelujahs at services and cross themselves with 2 fingers rather than 3. And they're buried with a cross at their feet instead of at their head, because the old believers do not want to be confused with Orthodox Christians. You don't want to mess that up. Oh, but their services are 5 or 6 hours long.
Oh my gosh.
And members are required to stand the whole time.
Oh.
So that's why she is quite the strong physical woman. That's just.
Did her dad make them have services though?
Oh, I'm sure.
And he was the pastor?
Yeah.
That's bullshit. If nothing else, you should at least get out of some church obligations by going into the middle of nowhere.
I know. I think they were just all like so fear-based. Like, this is what we have to do every day. They did that every day.
Dad, can we take a minute away from building this cabin? Sure, let's have church. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's crazy. And when you were talking about how, anybody from today, if they're put in that situation, that they would die of a paper cut, that makes me think of those 2 asshat brothers who did the bombs in Boston when the marathon was happening. Mm-hmm. And they were on the search for the guy, after his brother died.
Yeah.
And they found him in a boat parked in someone's house. And I was thinking to myself, like, this guy probably had no concept of how to live without his cell phone. Yeah, and when his battery died, he was like, oh, fuck, what do I do? I'll just lay down in this boat
and die, which would be me. I mean, I would be the absolute same, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if you're going to be stupid like that to start with and plan a bomb and, oh my gosh.
Well, I will say one thing,
I have nothing to do with it, sorry.
That you would probably enjoy that the old believers do is preceding Lent, they have a celebration called Butter Week. And
yeah, I would like
wait, with folk dances and organized fist fights.
You didn't lead with that?
And then
amazing.
And then to just up that fun, during Pentecost, they have a meal of eggs eaten at the graves of their dead relatives.
Oh,
so
God.
it is I mean, the VBSs are off the hook. They love it there.
Dad, can we take a break from building the house? Sure, let's get some eggs and go visit the dead relatives. Oh, wait. We don't have any. Oh,
Right.
wait. I guess
Yeah.
at one point they did.
So, but
Where'd they get eggs? They didn't have eggs.
well, no, like the old believers in general.
I know.
But no, when
I'm
brought them
extrapolating.
chickens. Anyway, she's still alive. You can find all sorts of fan pages for updates, all this stuff, because she's sort of like a,
Yeah.
a cult hero. And I mean cult.
Well, thank you for that. That was awesome.
I have so much useless stuff. Everyone, have a good week and stay healthy. Send us your true funny stories. It has to be about your family over the holidays.
It doesn't have to be.
It has to. We want some meltdowns.
But that would be good. All right, guys, have a good week.
Adios.